What is it time to let go of in my own life right now? Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a podcast helping women in career and life transitions achieve clarity on their next steps so they can transform uncertainty into an energizing next chapter. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and the founder of It's My Time Now Coaching. If you're wondering what's next in your career or life, you are in the right place. Through solo and guest episodes, you'll gain practical tips, tools, and inspiration to help you uncover blocks, gain confidence, and be, do, and have what you want. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Are you feeling stuck, unsure of what's next, or wondering if it's time for a major shift in your life or career? If so, this next episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast dives into how to approach life transitions, whether triggered by external events or an internal feeling that something needs to change. If you're dealing with uncertainty, frustration, or a desire for something more, this episode will provide actionable steps to help you move forward with purpose. In this episode, you will understand the difference between change and transition and why it matters for lasting results. Learn the 3 key phases of transitions and how to navigate each with clarity, and understand and uncover your ikigai or reason for being to align your passions, strengths, and values for a more fulfilling life. So listen now to gain tools and perspectives you need to take charge of your transition and make meaningful progress towards the life that you want. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. I hope you're doing really well and are excited about the upcoming holiday season. I was so blessed to be with my whole family this past week to celebrate my mom and dad's 65th wedding anniversary. Can you imagine? 65 years. Celebrating with them reminded me of so many things. Most importantly, how we need to celebrate each moment in our lives and not take things for granted. We really don't know what is in store for us tomorrow, so why not live this present day to its fullest? Our parents still to this day love and respect each other so very much, and I think a lot of that is actually missing these days. That's what I wish for you this holiday season, to be surrounded by the love of those you hold really dear and to celebrate not only them, but you as well. The rest is really so unimportant in the whole scheme of things. I know we get bogged down with the busyness of the season, but really do stop to appreciate the presence of the love around you and stop to appreciate all the great things about you and who you are today. So, I'd like to speak a little bit about transitions today, life transitions and career transitions. And as we approach a new year, it is always a time to look forward and plan all the things you want to do. I encourage you to take a pause and reflect on where you are now and appreciate all that you are today and all that you have accomplished to get to where you are now. Don't always be chasing the next thing. If we worry about the next thing, my friend, that next thing will move further and further away from us. As a career and life transitions coach, I have always been fascinated by the different transitions which we go through in life and how they shape who we are. So today I'd like to share a bit about this, spend a bit of time and share how this may resonate with you and help you as you are entering this new year. I witnessed the transition my parents are in, which is really one of old age and reflection on the life that they have lived. They seem so content and happy, and that is what I learned this past week. How whatever stage that we are in, how can we make the most of it? How can we be content, happy, and fulfilled? I want you to think about life's transitions as opportunities, not crises or obstacles to get through. You may be going through something which feels like a crisis right now, and I'm not diminishing that at all, but trying to help you to view this as an opportunity instead. You may have, for example, recently been laid off or are going through a divorce or are considering leaving your work to start a new business or you're going through a health concern. All of these transitions are real and they also force us to ask the question, what's next? Before we ask that question, though, let's evaluate where we are now. So, to begin with, in order to understand how to navigate transitions with confidence, we really need to understand what a transition is. And many of us may think that a transition is something drastic, like the what examples I just gave of being laid off or having to start a new career or starting again after a divorce or transforming your life after a health scare. These are all true and valid examples of a transition, and they're often beyond our control. But in fact, they don't always have to be so drastic. I invite you to think instead of a transition as also being a shift in our thinking about our own self concept, and it signals an invitation for transformational growth that can have a lasting positive effect on our lives. What that means is a transition can be triggered internally. Even if you have an inkling or a feeling that something is not quite right or needs to change for you, maybe what you're going right through right now, or maybe what you're going through right now doesn't align with who you are, that can also be a transition. Again, it is a shift in our thinking about our own self concept. It can, for example, begin as a feeling, a nagging or a voice that tells us that fundamentally things really need to change. And if you've heard this podcast before, you know that that's what happened to me. The thing I'd like you to hear most, though, is that these transitions, again, whether that external change or your own internal feeling, is a huge opportunity. If we pay attention to these shifts in our thinking about our own self concept, it can be a huge information invitation for transformational growth. And these shifts are a normal part of adult life. And I'll give you this definition of a transition, which I learned from Linda Rossetti, who is an expert on transitions and somebody who I trained with. They are an incredible invitation to unlock the enormous potential that is resonant within each of us. So I really want you to absorb that right now as you're listening to me. Is that if you're in a place right now where you're feeling that you may want something more or something different, you are going through a transition. And that is a shift in your thinking. And I want you to view this as an opportunity to really rediscover who you are and what you want. If you feel that there's a potential inside of you that has not yet been tapped into, that is a signal and an invitation to explore that potential. So there's really an important distinction I'd like you to understand, and that is also the difference between transition and change. These terms are often used interchangeably, however, they are quite different. Transitions occur when there's a shift, again, is what I just mentioned, in what holds value and meaning to us, and they involved unknown outcomes. It is a psychological event and always a choice. Change, on the other hand, is a process through which we alter particulars and leave intact a sense of ourself. So change usually involves known outcomes and it is very goal oriented and situational. So, for example, change could be your move to a new city or your shift to a new job or the replacement of your manager. And sometimes we feel like we can fix everything by changing the situation. For example, we say, well, I'll just get another job and it will fix everything. Instead, often changing the situation won't fix everything. We have to actually first re examine our changing identity and our values. So it's not these events, but rather the inner reflection that you have to go through. As William Bridges said, he is the author of the book Transitions Making Sense of Life Changes. He says that without a transition, a change is just a rearrangement of the furniture. Unless transition happens, the change won't work because it doesn't take. Does that make sense? So, unless we take the time to pause and understand why we are going through these transitions, any superficial changes we make will not stick. So, again, what you may be experiencing right now is normal. And in fact, there are four types of situations which trigger transitions, which are very common. I have seen these different situations with many of my clients, and perhaps you can relate to one or more of these triggers. So, the first trigger, as I just talked about, are unplanned events like a job loss or divorce. The second is when you desire a change, but you are stuck or frustrated because you aren't making any progress. Perhaps you want to change your job, but you just don't know how, so you're frustrated. The third trigger is when you anticipate change, like a milestone birthday or graduation or retirement, and you want to understand how best to prepare for it. And the fourth trigger is just a feeling inside that something is not quite right, or you have a desire to pursue more of your potential. So think about what you may be triggering you right now. Is it one of these four scenarios or maybe a combination? I can tell you that my transition in my career and my life was due to both two and four, but something inside of me told me that things were fine, but just not quite right. And I wanted to make a change, but I didn't know how to go about doing it. So I'd like you to consider now, do any of these triggers apply to you? So when we experience one of these triggers, it really signals to us that we are about to enter a period of transition if we choose to. So I'd like to just go through another concept about transitions and the phases of a transition and how that could be relevant to you. This is really important because whether major or minor, all transitions have these phases. The first is a trigger, which is what we just discussed. And that is something that, again, triggers us to think about a transition. And all these triggers always start with an ending. What I mean by that is endings must be dealt with if we are to move on to whatever comes next in our lives. Endings are the clearing process. Transitions start with letting go of what no longer fits or is adequate to your life right now. You need to figure out what no longer is appropriate for you right now. It is really internal. So, for example, you may be triggered by the feeling that you want to explore more of your potential by pursuing a job which is at a higher level than your current one. When this trigger happens, it signals the end of something. This could be the ending of your current job, of course, but it could also be the ending of your belief that you are not qualified enough to pursue the next level. So, the next phase is to make a decision. What are you going to do about it? And this is called the neutral zone, or that in between time, or the time of rediscovery, when you take the time to discover who you really are and what you really want. The neutral zone is a time when the real business of transition takes place. So, this can be a time of confusion, and that might be where you are right now, feeling overwhelmed and confusion because you don't know how to go about figuring it out. So, we need to give ourselves time and space here to really be able to answer important questions about ourselves. And the third phase is action, which is a new beginning. This is when we launch those new activities that we have determined during the neutral zone. So, this could actually be, for example, applying for that next level job or pursuing a new business or going back to school, whatever that neutral phase, zone phase has revealed to us. And it does take courage and confidence. And this is a period of change. And if we go through the first few phases first, this change will usually stick. So remember that transitions can be triggered externally or internally, but either way, they're a huge opportunity to rediscover ourselves. It's really about paying attention to inner signals, which may indicate to us that we need to explore a different path. It could be that you're completely satisfied with your career right now, and it may be a personal side of your life which needs nurturing. Or it could be that you're looking to advance in your career and don't know quite how or what direction to pursue or how you want to do it. So it all starts with inner reflection, my friend. So if you are experiencing a trigger, an unplanned event, or you desire or anticipate change, or you're just feeling uncertain, I'd like you to ask yourself this question first. What is it time to let go of in my own life right now? What is it time to let go of in my own life right now? This could be an attitude or belief or goal or even a part of your life or an assumption about yourself that doesn't serve you well right now. For me, for example, many years ago, it was letting go of the belief that I needed approval from everyone around me before I made the transition. That was a huge letting go process for me. So, again, ask yourself this first question: what is it time to let go of in my own life right now? This is a really important journaling question that will really help you set up yourself for your new year with clarity. Then, the next question I'd like you to ask yourself is this: what is standing backstage in the wings of my life waiting to make its entrance? What is standing backstage in the wings of my life waiting to make its entrance? This answer could be internal or it could come as an external event or situation. It could be something that's been nagging you that you can't get out of your mind. And that could be a message that something is standing just outside the door of your everyday awareness. For me, for example, it was this desire to explore more of my talents at the time, things I didn't know about myself. What came up for me was the desire to explore my love of writing and to explore how I could directly help people more. So here's the question again: what is standing backstage in the wings of my life waiting to make its entrance? So I'd love you to take time to reflect on these two questions and journal your thoughts and let whatever comes flow to you. Give yourself the permission to pause and answer these questions over the next little while. So I've talked a lot today about transitions and what a transition is and how it differs from change, as well as the triggers and phases of a transition. And we talked about some of the questions you need to ask yourself during these different phases. So, how do we actually confidently navigate these transitions that we may be going through? So, this is that neutral zone or second phase that I discussed, where we really discover who we are and what we really want. And that gives us the confidence to move forward. So, once we have made the decision that we want to explore why these triggers are happening, one of the key first things is to determine your why. And one of the really important processes that I actually take my clients through is to determine your why or ikigai or your reason for being. I've spoken about this in detail in this podcast in many of the episodes, and you can listen to episode 109 in particular to learn more. So I won't go into it in huge detail here, but many of you may have heard of it. And ikigai is a Japanese term for reason for being. And it originated in the village of Okinawa, which is a blue zone, an area of the world where the largest number of 100-year-olds live. It's been studied, and one of the reasons that people in this blue zone live for so long is because they follow their ikigai or reason for being, which is found at the convergence of four elements. Number one, what you are good at or your strengths. Number two, what you love or your passions. Number three, what the world needs related to your values. And number four, what you can be paid for. Your ikigai can be found at the convergence of these four elements, and they are depicted in a Venn diagram. And it, again, it is a sweet spot between what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. If you're interested in receiving this diagram to fill out yourself, you can reach out to us at support@itsmytimenowcoaching.com, and we'll send you over a diagram. So I take my clients through the step-by-step process of determining your ikigai, and it is a really powerful tool which helps you to move confidently forward. You can ask yourself questions like, what are my three greatest strengths? What talents come to me naturally? And am I using my talents right now to the utmost? You can ask yourself questions like, what am I really passionate about? What did I used to do as a child where time used to pass by so quickly? And can I bring that passion into today? Or you can ask yourself, what do I value now, which perhaps I didn't value as much before? Perhaps now it's more about giving back to your community or society or taking more time for self care. And then you can ask yourself, what have I been paid for? Or how can I be paid for in the future? which uses a combination of my strengths, passions, and values. So, in order to confidently navigate transitions, it is really important to first answer these questions and to determine your ikigai. And once you have determined your reason for being, you can ask yourself, does my work or life align with my ikigai? And if not, why not? How can I adjust my life or work to ensure that what I have determined as my ikigai is in alignment with that? Then it becomes a process of pursuing opportunities in your career or life which do align with your ikigai. I'm not suggesting here that we all need to leave our jobs and pursue something entirely different. What I am suggesting is that how can you bring those elements of your strengths, passions, and values together somehow in your life? It could be that you need to push yourself further in different ways in your current job. Perhaps it means you want to pursue the next role within your company. It could also mean pursuing a buried passion or hobby or starting something you love on the side. You can do all these things through, for example, networking or researching areas that you're interested in, or joining communities or groups which align with those passions. Or perhaps you need to up level your skills or seek guidance and accountability through mentors or coaches or advisors. When I did my Ikigai several years ago, and just to let you know, this can be done often. I discovered that the time that my Ikigai was to use my experience and my skills to advise women on how to bring out their full potential during pivotal phases in their lives. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that, but I did. I started and did the research. I joined groups. I developed new skills. And yeah, I sought guidance. So now I am doing exactly that. So, when we rediscover who we are and what we want through the process of transition, it can reveal things about us that we never knew existed or that have been buried. And so, remember what I said in the beginning, transitions are not something to be afraid of. In fact, quite the opposite. They're an exciting opportunity to uncover who you really are and a tremendous opportunity for transformational growth if you view them as such. I would love to help you navigate the phases of transition that you may be going through and help you identify your ikigai or reason for being. There is no time like now to start this reflection process to set yourself up for a fantastic new year ahead. You can start by taking the Career and Life Fulfillment Quiz, and links are in the show notes. And this will give you a score of how fulfilled you really are in your life and career right now. And the next step is to book a free breakthrough conversation with me. We can go through the results of your quiz and we can discuss where you are now and where and who you want to be for 2025. This is my Ikigai, and it'd be my pleasure to help you find yours. Till next time, my friend, take good care of yourself as you approach this beautiful season ahead.